Stay on.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Cut. I'm your host, Christian Williams, and I am here, as always, with Randy Hall. Randy, how are you, man?
Doing all right. Busy yesterday with the trade deadline. Had to try and keep up here, but it gave me something to look at on my phone at work, so works out for me.
Yeah, it was a crazy day. I was just yelling to my coworker, "Did you see this one? Did you see this one?" And, I was basically reporting to the whole office, but it was a good time. The craziest trade deadline day that I can remember. I mean, it was the craziest. 20 players were traded. It was a record, which is it's good. It's a good NFL that we're living in, where it's starting to be more like, the NBA trade deadline is always a thing, and you like seeing players move around, especially the running back market has shifted drastically. That was a big piece of this, but we've got so much to talk about that we're just going to dive right into some of the league news, some of the trades, kind of give a little bit of reaction to the things that have happened in the last 48 hours. First one, Kadarius Toney was traded to the Chiefs for a 2023 third-round pick and a sixth-round pick next year as well. What are your thoughts on this?
It's just a good fresh restart. I think that's been kind of the take from everyone in the industry. It sounds there's some mixed reports, like he hasn't really been hurt and they've been holding him out. But we did also hear, like, when Daboll took over, that they clashed right away. I think Tony was getting away with a lot. They just clashed right away. So I think he was never long for that team. So I think this is a good thing. And this is exactly the type of athlete that the Chiefs always target and have used really well in the past. Obviously, people are going to liken him to Tyreek Hill because of how explosive he is. I think he could be a better version of Mecole Hardman, obviously, from what we've seen from him. But he still is a little bit limited as a receiver, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. My main take from this is very much so a futures move, even if he does get on the field a little bit this year. I think they like what they've gotten in Mecole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. They've played well. So well that Sky Moore, when he's been on the field, has actually performed better than them, but they're giving the opportunity to the veterans that are here for potentially just 1 year. All three of those guys have ways out of two of them expire after this year, and then MVS has an out in his contract. So really, the Chiefs don't have a lot of pieces on their team for next year in that wide receiver room. And so people saying, this kills Sky Moore, maybe, but I really don't think so. I think that's just a futures move where you hope you can bring Toney into your culture and he's not a problem, because there are more pieces to, the off-field stuff. But the on-field stuff too, he's short on routes. He's consistently not lining up in the right spot. He's not running the right routes. Like, he needs to develop. So, and he was acquired very, very cheaply, considering I think they probably would have enjoyed taking him that year. They didn't. They couldn't. They weren't picking high enough. So, yeah, I don't think he's fantasy relevant for the rest of the year. That's my takeaway.
I do think he could be fantasy relevant, just because because he's a player that clearly doesn't need to know the playbook, because he doesn't. But he could be used really quickly and a little bit more gadget stuff. And I think they can take away some of the stuff they've been doing with Juju, which is good because he's just not really that good at it. And neither is MVS. And with the futures, like, I don't think this affects Sky. I think the only way you would think that is if Sky can only win short and stuff like that, and that's where he's going to be more deadly. I think he's more. I think he could win short, obviously, but I think he's more of a deep guy. So I think both can be existed on the same team, and I think they can do with a big body to go with them too. So I don't think they have it on the roster. So
That's true. That is true. Next one, Roquan Smith traded to the Ravens for a 2023 second and a fifth. We'll just couple this one in with the Chase Claypool trade as well. So then the Bears took their own second. They acquired a second for Roquan, kept that one, traded their second to the Steelers for Chase Claypool. What do you think of these moves that the Bears have made? Now, the Roquan Smith deal, a lot more came out today where they basically clarified like he wasn't really a fit in this scheme and he wanted to be paid as the top linebacker and he wasn't performing that way. So,
yeah,
how do you feel?
I think that was pretty much. I think this was a foregone conclusion from the offseason and preseason where they couldn't get the deal done, and his side and him personally said he felt disrespected, and it was almost a shock that he actually came back to play. So the fact that he did was more of a pro move on him. I think that's more just who he is, but it just wasn't a good fit. Clearly, this regime wants a reset, and that defense needed a reset. I think they did a good job in this last draft starting that reset process, not necessarily at the linebacker position, but everywhere else, at least in the secondary. So I think they're off to a good start, and I think they've clearly just offloaded the veteran pieces of the defense this offseason, this season, to get the money off the books and try and just restart that process. And I think this is a good trade. I think you got a good value for him. I don't think they overpaid for Chase Claypool, really. You could, I could say maybe it's a bit too much. Like maybe get like a fifth back or so, but it's not like anything egregious. And people compare. I saw people that you shouldn't listen to compare it to the DeAndre Hopkins deal, which is ridiculous because they said DeAndre Hopkins went for a second. No, DeAndre Hopkins went for a second, a fourth, and a starting running back. And we said that was the worst deal ever. So to then have that as a pedestal of what Claypool should go for is ridiculous. But
Yeah.
that's why you're not a good analyst.
Right.
Because
The other piece
you
to
don't understand
that,
trades.
well, the other piece to that is, I mean, Claypool's still on his rookie deal. They have a year
Yeah.
and a half to figure out if they want to extend him, whereas Hopkins was already well past his rookie deal when that trade happened. Like he was
Yes.
in the middle of a massive deal.
And
Cap,
asking to be extended for more
right,
money.
right.
So
And
it's
that all plays into it.
and I think he can immediately make an impact on this team and help with short area where Mooney just doesn't really specialize. He can do it, but we've seen increased involvement from like Dante Pettis and Equinemius St. Brown, who we joked about earlier, but those guys just can't help this ball move for this offense. And it's led to more running. And I think this can help balance them a little bit and actually maybe give them a little bit of a playoff push, which is exciting.
It is. Yeah, these two moves to me indicate that they are all in on Justin Fields.
Yes.
And so I know there have been a lot of weird takeaways like, oh, I can't believe that Claypool's the only receiver they could get. That's not moving the needle. Look at the free agent wide receiver class for next year and tell me who is better, because the list is Jacoby Myers is probably better than Chase Claypool, but not really for what Justin Fields wants to do. And then you've got Juju Smith-Schuster, and I would argue that same premise as Clay. I'd rather have Claypool for Fields' skill set.
Yeah.
The other piece of this is you've now flipped where your money is going from a non-premium linebacker position into a premium wide receiver position, and they have to spend money anyway. So you may as well spend it on the premium position and give your quarterback that you now believe in fully more weapons. And this does not mean that they are done adding receivers in the next 2 years. Like they are still going to add to that room. They have to.
Yeah, they still need. I mean, they need depth regardless in this position, but they need another guy, in my opinion. Mooney is definitely a medium to deep guy, and Claypool is a move piece and versatile piece. So I think that's really good for this offense, especially with how much they are going to keep integrating a little bit of an RPO system, which is smart, which is something we didn't think we'd be saying in week 1 or 2, but here we are.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And I think a bit of that is just trust in Fields now, and you know, I'm glad he earned it because we're starting to see some exciting things, and you know, need another piece in this wide receiver room, and need a lot of pieces on this offensive line. But I will say, you know, this offensive line has done a lot better than expected as well, and even with injuries, so props
Yeah.
on that. But there's still a lot more to be done on this offense. Obviously, there's a lot to do on the defense now, but they got the weapons and the ammo and free agency to do this, and you know, offensive line has been kind of picked clean in free agency the last couple of years. Uh, Same with wide receivers. So I think it's a smart deal to invest in a little bit younger talent on defense and free agency, and invest. You know, you invested heavily on the defense this last draft, invest in the offense this one, but we'll get to that Friday fix, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
And very exciting one, I'm sure. You know, more exciting than
Yeah.
like Browns or anything
Right.
else.
Well, and last piece on this, Elton Jenkins is a free agent. Now you're instead of spending money on Roquan Smith, you're spending money on potentially the most versatile offensive lineman in the league, because I think they're
Yeah,
able to throw money at those positions now too, which is it's
and
just all smart moves.
and I also think there's a little bit of resentment from Alan Jenkins kind of being moved around a ton as well.
Yeah,
A little bit like Orlando Brown with the Ravens, to where I think they can sign him with this money and he gets to pick where he plays, whether
yeah.
that's inside or outside or left or right. I don't think it matters on this offensive line. I think he's, you know, able to just pick his spot and move on, and that's a smart deal.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next one. TJ Hawkinson is now a Minnesota Viking. The Lions get a 2023 second and a 2024 third. The Vikings get it. Hawkinson, a 2023 fourth and a 24 conditional fourth. We texted about this one. You know, I think this is great for the Vikings. I think they wanted a guy like Tyler Higbee potentially that they could use in that way because that's where Kevin O'Connell came from, and they don't really have that. And Irv Smith just went on IR again, so I think that was a piece where they see themselves as Super Bowl contenders. This is a win now move. On the flip side of things, Lions fans are upset about this because you know Hawkinson is a young piece that should be part of your core moving forward. But your thoughts on it were that, well, they're not really using the tight end a whole lot, and maybe that's not a piece of how they're going to build moving forward. So, you still think
Yeah,
that way?
yeah. I usually still think that way. He was a remnant of the last regime, a very good remnant, and what we viewed at the outside world as a cornerstone piece. But I think when this team kind of broke it down, it's not a cornerstone piece. He's also um, on his fourth year.
Yeah,
Like let's not forget that part, to where I believe the Lions picked up his fifth year option. I'm not sure. I think the Vikings also have to agree to that. But
yeah,
even then, he's got one more year left, and he's probably going to want a contract extension. So this was a move by the Lions to kind of reset their tight end market and understand that while they may be getting a cheap quarterback for the next few years, there's still a lot of pieces that need to be fixed on this team for them to really be a contender, which is they're kind of on that outside looking in where they're close, but they have a lot of, I mean, this defense has been, while there's some exciting pieces, it's been atrocious. So I think they're resetting their market a little bit on some money wise, and you're getting high value pieces back in the second or the third that they can replace Hawkinson at least to a certain extent. I mean, let's be honest, they don't use a tight end. Hawkinson had one big game when no one else was around. He had 3 for 80 last week, and that was his biggest game besides that game in the last like 2 years, which is 3 for 80.
yeah,
They don't use him. They're clearly shifting to a running back focused, wide receiver focused aspect of throwing the ball, with the tight end chipping more and staying in the block more. So I think they're looking for a little bit different piece and resetting the market. And I think they are going to do a good job. I mean, there's plenty of tight ends that could really fit that. I mean, if they had Hayden Hurst right now, I think they'd be happier than having
okay,
Hawkinson. So that's kind of the point to me, to where they just need a chain mover at tight end at times and someone that's willing to block. So I think it's a good thing for them, and they don't lose much, and they get valuable pieces to help build this team for hopefully Dan Campbell.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like. I think they need to actively continue losing though, and go get the number 1 overall pick, so they don't have to worry about using some of these picks to move up. So
Yes, exactly.
And last note on that, I think it helps Hawkinson for fantasy because I do think
Yes.
that he'll be involved, and I think that the Vikings also see the end for Adam Thielen coming shortly. So I think it's a long-term benefit for Hawkinson for fantasy too.
Yeah.
Next one, Naeem Hines went to the Bills for Zach Moss and a conditional 2023 6th-round pick. The James Cook selection in the 2022 NFL Draft was one of the most perplexing, in that they already had Singletary that they knew that they were going to use as the first and second down back at the very least. Cook has actually played pretty well over the last few weeks, and they still said, no, we need a better pass catcher out of the backfield. And Hines is pretty affordable, and there's an out in his deal after this year, so he could be a 1-year rental.
I think this is a bit of they don't think Cook is necessarily ready yet, and This is insurance for cheap because they didn't really want Moss on the roster anyways, so they got rid of a conditional 6th for a versatile running back that is very, very good at the backfield. So I think this is a fantastic deal for them.
Zach Moss, RB1 this week if Jonathan Taylor's beat up.
I think you misspoke with Deion Jackson or whatever his name is. I think he would obviously be the RB1.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, that was all facetious.
Yeah, I know. And this is the Colts are, they're trying to figure it out. They're clearly, they're outside looking in on this year as well, where they would really need a big run from Ellinger right now to make it in. They just fired their offensive coordinator. I think this is just a full reset for them, and getting Hines out of the room changes what they're trying to do in the passing game.
Next one, William Jackson III and a 2025 conditional 7th went to the Steelers for a conditional 2025 6th in Washington. Just an absolute dump of a player that requested a trade a while back, and that was probably the best deal. And who cares? I mean, I guess who cares, except the Steelers are also going and getting a corner that really doesn't fit their scheme. And I guess at that price, who cares? Once again,
exactly. Well, and they've been getting hurt left and right at the corner position as well. So I think this, at worst case, at full strength, is a depth corner move to really bolster and help the room. And I don't, for this price, who cares at that point?
Yeah, for sure. No thoughts on that one. The Jaguars traded for Calvin Ridley. That's crazy. The conditions on all the picks are also crazy. So conditional 5th and a 2024 conditional 4th. The 4th stays a 4th if he's on the roster. It goes to a 3rd if he meets playing time incentives in 2023.
Yeah, I think it's like 50% of the snaps.
Yep. And then it becomes a 2nd if they sign him to a long-term extension. And it was specified that it was a long-term extension. So it's not just like we got you for another year. But those conditions have to be laid out in some weird email between the two GMs. And I find that hilarious. That's the only part of this. Also, Calvin Ridley can't play this year. I get that that's a move for the future. Calvin Ridley's also 29 years old, I think, the next time he plays. And so the next time he's 27 now, turning 28 soon, I believe, and then 29. Well, I guess so.
So he'll be 28 going to 29.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So move for the future with a veteran that hasn't played in a long time. I don't know.
Yeah, but you're not, so this is never going to be a 2nd. Like, I think we can agree to that.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be a 3rd. So for a 25 3rd and a 24 3rd and a 23 5th, which I believe the condition is if he just gets reinstated on time, I want to say. So if that's the case, at that point, that price for this possible caliber receiver, you were never going to get that in the 5th next year or the 3rd the year after that.
That's true. I get it. I get the move. It's just a kind of a strange one I guess the Jaguars aren't really win now at this point. I think they.
And it's not just that though, but think about how difficult it's been for them to get veterans to sign. I mean, they just overpaid for Christian Kirk, and we dogged them like crazy. But it's something they had to do just to get him in Jacksonville. So this
Yeah.
is a much cheaper option than overpaying somebody next year. I think just to get more actual talented receiver depth, because they have depth, but it's a bunch of misfit toys to a certain extent, which is always these bad receiving cores. And we already talked about the Bears, so it's just
Yeah.
how it is.
It gives them flexibility too, so they don't have to draft a wide receiver in the first. I think that's another key piece to this. All right,
Yeah.
next one: Broncos traded a fourth to the Jets for Jacob Martin and a fifth. Just allows the Jets to sign pieces that they want to keep around anyway. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't. This is also just filling in for the trade of Bradley Chubb. So they traded him to the Dolphins for a 2025 fifth for the San Francisco 49ers first, because the Dolphins are forfeiting their first, a fourth, and then Chase Edmonds also went back in that deal. So a huge haul for Bradley Chubb, who's been really, really good when on the field. Everything. The only concern that he has ever had is injuries. So great deal for the Dolphins. Also kind of a really good deal for the Broncos, I think.
Yeah.
They need a first pretty badly, and this gives them one that admittedly it'll be in the back half of the 20s, I think. The 49ers are a good football team, so
Yeah, but it's still a first.
it is.
That's
For sure.
and with how much they gave up for Wilson, even if they have to trade back that first to get more pieces, it's still worth it.
Yeah. And then in a coinciding move, the Dolphins also traded a fifth to the 49ers for Jeff Wilson. So I guess my question there, and we're going to talk about that team when we get here, but is Jeff Wilson going to take Raheem Mostert snaps at all, you think, or no?
No, he's just it's if Mostert gets hurt, Jeff Willis can do what Mostert's doing.
Yes, we've literally seen all of this happen too.
We've seen it happen, and it's if Mostert got hurt with Edmonds, they would have to change how they're playing slightly. I think that's literally how this deal was done.
Yeah. Mike McDaniel definitely has a type at running back. That's what I will say here.
Yep. People he's worked with before.
And it's, literally just people he knows.
Chase Edmonds for Elijah Mitchell next year.
For sure. Probably will happen. I would not be shocked. Okay. That's it for the trade deadline. A lot of fun things happening. Obviously, not super fantasy focused. We're about to get into the week 9 preview. We were going to focus on just kind of give an update on our fantasy teams. I'll tell you, we're both, over 500 in our fantasy leagues. I don't really want to go through the breakdowns of it, so we're running out of time on this episode. We will probably update you with this next week, though. So stay tuned. We're doing fairly well. I'm not having a good redraft year, though. We'll talk about it next week. Hopefully next week I can report good. Yeah, it's because you've been beating me. It's not ideal. So we'll update you guys with that next week. Hopefully my record's a little bit better in redraft. And just across the board. I want to win all my matchups this week. Okay, week 9 preview. This week we do have 6 teams on bye, so quite a few fewer football games, a few less football games. Browns are on bye, Cowboys, Broncos, Giants, Steelers, and 49ers. So a lot of good fantasy performances. Bye week management is a very key point to winning in fantasy. So first game that we're going to talk about, Thursday Night Football. Just a fantastic game if you like blowouts and bad games. The Philadelphia Eagles are 13-point road favorites against the Texans, and the over-under is 44. Jalen Hurts is probably in the MVP discussion right now, and I say probably with a definitely. Went off last week, 19 of 28 for 285 and 4 touchdowns, only 10 rushing yards. So that whole narrative that he's a running quarterback only, that's gone. Miles Sanders was good, 9 carries, 78 yards and a touchdown. A.J. Brown went nuclear last week, 6 receptions on 11 targets, 156 yards and 3 touchdowns. Davis Mills.
Personal foul.
This is true.
On that third touchdown, he just you suck, little boy. I was like,
Yeah,
oh no,
it was
that's
great.
gotta be a flag. That's gotta be a
Yeah.
flag.
I was wrong about AJ Brown's involvement in this offense. I definitely thought Devontae Smith would still get his, and he has at times,
Yeah,
but AJ Brown is so much better than him, like so
and
much
it's
better.
and it's kind of the same dilemma, to a lesser extent, talent wise, but the same dilemma with the Dolphins, to where we argued that you said Waddle's going to still be the one, and I was like, no, bro, it's Hill, it's the money, it's the
Mhm.
pedigree, it's in it's the same thing, and Waddle's done really well in his own right, and Smith has had really good games in his own right, but these top dollar guys are going to get the targets. That's just how it is, plain and simple.
For what it's worth, I wasn't far off. Jalen Waddle's a top 5
No,
receiver right
no,
now, so
and that's I was
that's
just,
crazy.
and my whole point is Hill's going to be better.
Yep,
It's just how it
and
is.
it always was, yeah,
He's
yeah,
going to be the one because he's going to get forced targets, and that's what we've seen with both teams, and it's the right move for both guys too. Like,
yeah,
I think if Smith, we've seen some games where he's been the top guy for the Eagles, and it's not been the best games either. So I think it's worked out best for everyone
yeah,
except Smith owners and fantasy, I guess.
yeah, yeah, for sure. On the other side of things, I don't really. Nico Collins has been ruled out. Brandon Cooks is questionable. Um,
And
I
he also might be asking to be cut.
Yeah, he's not happy. He's a very unhappy camper. He's the one guy I thought for sure would be moved. Didn't
Mhm.
get moved. Immediately went to Twitter. He's like, "Don't mess with my money," and I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. Um,
Probably it's gonna have to be like a buyout to leave, to where the trade he would have gotten his money. I don't,
yeah, yeah, that's a
but
good assumption. I don't care about this game.
logic.
Eagles cover, and I'm hitting the over. Is what I'm picking here.
Uh, I'll give you that just because I think the Texans can put up 10. Um, but yeah, and with Cooks, like, he was almost my sit of the week, but like, if he plays at this point, there's no one else.
Right. Plus,
So
by week hell. So
yeah, so it's kind of like you might have to play him, but we might have a little bit of Allen Robinson from last year, and he's just not trying. Like,
yeah, yeah, he's a very unhappy camper
and
right now.
and the other thing, the Eagles have been phenomenal against wide receivers this year.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
if he's the only guy out there, he might just be blanketed. So it's tough. But if he gets 12 targets, how do you sit him?
Yeah, yeah. This game's gonna be a blowout though. So,
Yeah, that's why the
okay,
12 could be possible.
yeah, for sure. Let's move into the main slate. The Indianapolis Colts are playing the New England Patriots. The Patriots are 5.5-point favorites, and the over/under in this game is under 40, 39.5. Devontae Parker knee injury. Do we know what it is? I didn't see it.
I didn't get any more clarification, and I didn't check because it's New England, so they probably aren't going to tell us.
That's fair enough. Um, Last week the Colts offense did look better than in previous weeks with Matt Ryan. Sam Ellinger, 17 of 23 for 201 and 15 yards on the ground. Jonathan Taylor is very clearly banged up, 16 for 76. Just it sounds like he is gonna just continue playing through the injury, which may not be good for fantasy. I think, if you're approaching trade deadline, use Jonathan Taylor's name a little bit and maybe go get some pieces. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's
I mean, I think he very clearly gets 100 yards last week. He sat out for about a quarter with an ankle injury.
yeah,
I think he clearly gets to 100. I think this offense refocuses on the run as well, with the offensive coordinator being fired. So
yeah,
I think we have better days ahead of us. Um,
it's fair.
it's New England, though.
Yeah,
But then again, a running quarterback option system, heavy run, beat them on Monday night.
yeah,
Do the Colts try and mimic that? I don't know. But
probably.
I think I'll take the over, but I'll take the Patriots points here. I know we haven't
Yeah,
talked about the Patriots. I just realized that, but
no, it's
I
okay. I
just did
mean,
it to it.
well, yeah. So on the Patriots side, where I think they're going to win, Ramondre Stevenson that just performing incredibly well. He's a top 10 running back this year. He's being utilized in the passing game a lot more. So Bill Belichick told us this. I didn't really believe him because fair. Yeah, I think that's fair not to believe him. But he's gotten more honest in the absence of Tom Brady, I feel like. And he said, hey, Ramondre Stevenson has done a lot of good things, improving his work in the passing game. And then he's getting 7 catches for 72 yards out here. Like that's stuff that the elite running backs in the NFL do. And I think Ramondre Stevenson, here's a perfect example of a trade I would be comfortable making would be Jonathan Taylor for Ramondre Stevenson and maybe another piece because of the name value. Like I think that's worth it because I think Stevenson for the rest of the year, if he performs like this, he's going to finish ahead of Jonathan Taylor. So I think he's the route to winning this game. I think that he's going to be successful. Damian Harris must practice today, and no one knows why. He's not hurt. I don't know if maybe a personal thing happened. There's a chance he doesn't play, though. I mean, Wednesday, we're getting kind of late in the week to be missing practice. So we'll see.
Wednesday can be a rest day for people, though. So it's a bit hit or miss there.
That's true.
But, I mean, he was still involved.
He was.
It's just he's not getting – I don't think he's fully integrated back in the offense. That's why, like, long-term for Ramondre, I'm a little bit pessimistic only because when Harris was the top guy, when he was fully healthy, he was getting way more rushes and they were getting similar passing work. So that's why it's a little bit confusing how it'll play out because I do think it's a bit more of a hot hand approach. And we talked about that's what it was going to be. So I think there's going to be weeks where Harris out touches him on the ground and Stevenson just out touches him through the air. So it's tough. I think you have to get a key piece in that kind of trade back as well with Stevenson, but still.
Yeah, I was talking like another like flex or like wide receiver 2 or something like that. Know, but yeah, and then Jacoby Myers looked great again this last week. He's a top 20 receiver right now, top 15, I believe.
He's got 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games. Where the fuck was this last year?
Right? Yeah.
When we needed you.
Right. Yeah. I still have a lot of Jacoby shares, so I'm pretty happy about it. But yeah, I think the Patriots win this game by a touchdown. But I think I'm taking the under here, just barely. I just think both these defenses have the capability to be good, and neither of these offenses have inspired a ton of confidence. Mac Jones is kind of a mess right now.
Yeah, but it's just because it's like we're talking like 27-14. Like it's not a big line. Yeah. That's the only reason I'm comfortable doing the over, but it'd be very close.
Yeah, I could see this being like a 21-14 game. So,
and there's some games with this Patriots offense and defense that they score 40 points. You know, it's just how it is.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next one. Las Vegas Raiders 1.5-point road favorites going to Jacksonville to face off against the Jaguars. The over/under is 47.5. The Raiders are coming off what I would argue is their worst performance. Like it was just an embarrassing game. Derek Carr had just over 100 yards. Josh Jacobs couldn't get going. 10 carries, 43 yards, 2 catches for 11. Devontae Adams had 1 catch. Mac Hollins was again dominant. 7 catches, 64 yards, which is crazy. I think Josh McDaniels may get fired here in the next few weeks. Because you can't have that slew of weapons. I mean, there were reports that he was meeting with Mark Davis immediately after the game for the second time in 3 weeks. And I believe they had their bye week, right? So,
yep.
Back-to-back games, I believe. Yeah. So, not good for the Raiders. Sorry, Randy. I apologize.
I didn't watch the second half.
It's fair.
I thankfully went to a backyard Halloween party and watched Red Zone. Because
there you go. That's better.
God. And this game, guess what? This game didn't pop up, so I didn't have to care. Because the Saints scored 17 in the first half and then 7 in the second half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was not good. Other side of things, Trevor Lawrence is kind of also a mess right now. 18 of 31 for 133, a touchdown and 2 picks. Travis Etienne went crazy So shout out Fantasy Receipts. You can dunk on me all you want after this first week of ETN and James Robinson in their new homes. ETN was 24 for 156 and 1, 3 catches for 6 yards. Evan Ingram was a fantasy relevant piece, 4 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Trevor Lawrence being a mess is problematic until you consider that maybe he won't be as much a mess against this Raiders defense as he was the Broncos. Maybe.
But the Raiders can get pressure. And that's the issue.
Yeah.
It's the only thing they can do, but they can get pressure.
Trevor Lawrence loves throwing balls that he thinks he can make the throw. He truly believes it. And it's just a terrible decision. His decision making has been really, really bad this year and last year. He's not looking good. He's not looking good. Justin Fields QB1. That's my take.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Lawrence is going to get all the leverage in the world in the length to keep this going. I do think he's going to play better. I really am counting this as his rookie year. I think we all have kind of collectively made that agreement just throughout last year. So there's a bit of, I think he had a little bit better game last week, but I think he's going to have to play better this week. And we'll see. In like, Kamara didn't dominate them on the ground, really, the Raiders. So I don't think ETN has maybe as good of a day strictly on the ground. Maybe it's to go more through the air. But with that great pass rush comes great dump downs to ETN.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Raiders win this game. I think I'm hitting the under on this one, though. Barely.
Yeah, I'll go Raiders and under. Move on.
I get it. Yeah,
I need a better week to talk about these guys. I can't.
This is fair. Next one, Buffalo Bills, 13-point road favorites heading to New Jersey to face off against the New York Jets. Over under is 47.5. The Bills played really well to start, and then Josh Allen kind of just was like, you know what, I'm just going to try some things, and he threw a lot of picks. I don't know what he was doing on a few of them. He sailed some balls too. He was sloppy. 13 of 25, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks, 49 yards on the ground. Stephon Diggs was, I think the Packers also got in their heads a little bit, in his head a little bit, but Stephon Diggs was definitely in their heads. 6 catches, 108 yards, and a touchdown. Devin Singletary was effective, 67 yards on the ground. But I will say this was probably the worst game from the Bills this year.
Yes. Yeah.
I think so. Other side of things, Zach Wilson.
The Ravens game is the worst one.
Yeah, that's fair. Other side of things, Zach Wilson sucks.
He threw for yards.
He threw for yards. He made 2 of the worst decisions I've ever seen a starting quarterback that's supposed to have a ton of promise make. It's just the one interception. I don't know what he was doing. I have no clue what he was doing. But he was 20 of 41, terrible, 355 yards, a lot of yak, 2 touchdowns and 3 picks. New York Jets media is killing him right now, and I think rightfully so. The other piece of this, though, this is year 2 for a quarterback that wasn't ready. And so I still think being patient for the remainder of this year, and then maybe like, oh, the quarterback is holding this team back. Maybe we need to go in a different direction. I could see that being an outcome, but hopefully he develops over the next few weeks. Garrett Wilson was fed 6 catches, 115 yards. Tyler Conklin is like a top 12 tight end based on this one performance. 6 catches, 79 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Michael Carter, not very good on the ground, 7 for 26, 4 catches, 35 yards. How do you see this game going, though, man? Because I'm curious your thoughts.
I think Singletary probably has a very similar game, just because of how this defense will match up. I'm interested, honestly, only just to see Diggs versus Sauce. I think that'll be fun. I think this will be a big Gabe Davis game. I think the Bills win pretty easily and handily.
Okay.
I'll take the over and the points.
Okay. I'm going to take the Jets to cover in this game. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I think the Jets defense is really, really talented. And I think there is a world in which Sauce gives Diggs hell. which will then make the Buffalo offensive game plan. Now, maybe they're game planning for it. They're able to kind of effectively use their other guys. But I think if you take Diggs out of the equation, I think you're looking at a Bills offense that isn't quite as effective or efficient.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're without weapons at that point, but it's a different set. It's just not. Diggs is the first choice for a reason.
Yeah,
So
for sure. So I'll take Jets cover. I'll take the over as well, though. I do think that this game, hopefully the Jets are able to keep up. That's the one piece of this I'm a little nervous about.
Yeah.
Yeah. After Zach Wilson throws 4 picks in the first half, I'll look like an idiot. All right, next game, Los Angeles Chargers, 3-point favorites, heading to Atlanta to face off against the Falcons. Over-under is 49.5. The Chargers are coming off their bye week. They're going to be without Mike Williams. It sounds like they're going to be without Keenan Allen at this point. He re-aggravated his hamstring injury. He said he was frustrated. That, to me, this late in the week means that we're in trouble for the Chargers wide receiver room. Speaking of media, the media is absolutely annihilating the Chargers for not getting another receiver at the trade deadline with all the ones that were available. And rightfully so, I think. But Josh Palmer looks like the wide receiver one. Randy, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so my lock star of the week is the best Chargers receiver standing, and I think that's pretty clearly going to be Josh Palmer. I think a bit of a shout here is the Gerald Everett. I think I'm playing him everywhere that I'm deciding between tight ends. But Palmer is going to get the lion's share of targets here. I think he's the most explosive receiver they're going to have left as well. I think he should have a phenomenal day. Start obviously Eckler. I think he gets peppered, but I think Palmer and Everett are also really good starts. But have to pick Palmer here. The Falcons defense just got torched by PJ Walker. I think Herbert has a good day, even struggling a little bit, just trying to get the ball moving to different weapons. But I think Palmer is pretty comfortably a wide receiver 2 this week, if not wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Other side of things, Falcons played 5 quarters to get Mariota to 20 of 28 for 253, 3-2, and 43 on the ground. Caleb Huntley was the leading rusher, 91 yards on 16 carries. Algier, 39, but involved in the passing game, 3 catches, 46 yards, and a touchdown. Kyle Pitts came alive, 5 catches on 9 targets for 80 yards and a touchdown. Pitts has kind of come alive over the last couple of weeks. I think this is here to stay.
Unfortunately, it's coincided with Drake London getting less and less targets.
I know.
They're just not going to throw the ball. So barely one person can be supported, and 2 people can't. Which doesn't make any sense. Maybe the game plan changes slightly with Cordell Patterson most likely back either next week or the week after. So maybe it changes slightly, but I don't know, man. I'm taking the Chargers here. I think the Falcons are a decent team. I think they've won more than they probably should have already. Not for the whole season, but I think as of the record right now, I think they've won more than they should have. And I think the Chargers win this one pretty easily.
Interesting. I think coming off the bye is why I still lean the Chargers. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Arthur Smith's going to have some answers to that Chargers defense. So
yeah, I guess to clarify, I don't think the Chargers are going to win by 20. I think they win by more than 3.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. I think probably if I had to pick, probably a touchdown, maybe 9-10 points. But and then I'm taking the over on the 49.5. I think both of these offenses can move the ball fairly effectively. So, okay, next one. Miami Dolphins, 4.5-point favorites against the Bears. Over-under in this game is 45, which is probably the Bears' highest over-under on the year. Although maybe last week was with the Cowboys game. Tua is elite. I don't know how else to put it. 29 of 36, 382 yards and 3 touchdowns. 5 carries, 19 yards. Raheem Mostert, also good. 14 carries, 64 yards, a catch for 3. Tyreek Hill, we already talked about this. Tyreek Hill, 12 catches, 188 yards. He is pacing for over 2,000 yards on the year, which would be an NFL record. I don't see a reason why he doesn't get that at this point. Jalen Waddle also was feasting, 8 catches for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mike McDaniel is an offensive genius, guys. When we said that before the season, uh, you know, I felt that way. Now we're seeing it, and it's remarkable.
Yeah, I think it's very rare that I don't know why it's rare, but I feel over the last few years it's rare that we have the vision of what this could be, and it just is exactly what we think it should be and will be, and how Bestly. It's literally
Right.
just we're doing outside zone with Mostert. It's working. Gasecki's moving some change and getting some touchdown work a little bit, but it's just constant peppering of targets to the best wide
Players.
receiver duo, most likely in the NFL, especially at this point with Jamar Chase out. I think it's not even a question anymore, unfortunately.
Right.
And it's just working. And Tua's not, without mistakes. He underthrew like 4 or 5 balls in this game. They all seem to be caught. I don't understand that, but it's what's happening.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill is freaking an animal on that. And here's the other piece of it: when you have a guy as fast as Tyreek Hill, I think we've talked about this before. Patrick Mahomes underthrew Tyreek Hill all the freaking time, but he's so good that he comes back and gets it, and then half the time takes it for a touchdown on Yak. Like he's a special receiver. And even if Tua can't get it there, it doesn't matter. He's still throwing for almost 400 yards. So Andy took a dig at a reporter today about the deep ball, which I thought was pretty funny after he underthrew like 4 balls in this last game.
And it's weird because it's clearly like he just needs to step into it.
Yeah.
But
he
knows
just
he
doesn't
has a
want to.
good enough arm to just wing it down there.
Yeah. I don't know why he does it. It's pretty crazy, but
I think it's a bit of a safety thing too, because if he steps up, he might get hit, and he might end up hitting his finger or something. But it's just weird because there's just been multiple times where you could tell, like, if he just takes one step forward and launches, a little bit of a crow hop, a baby, or like Carr, sometimes he'll just fucking somehow fastly sprint more than he's ever sprinted in his life. Forward for 2 yards and just absolutely launch on the run an extra 10 yards, which shouldn't physically make sense, but it makes sense when it goes out there.
Yeah.
And if he just did anything like that, he wouldn't underthrow it. But he's just fuck it.
Yeah, he like fades away on them too.
He just leans back.
I don't get it. Other side of things, Justin Fields, 17 of 23, 151 yards and 2 touchdowns, but added 8 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Fields was really, really good. He should have had over 200 yards. There was a drop by Velus Jones Jr. There was a drop-ish, kind of a pass breakup in the end zone, I believe. Equanimeous St. Brown had one. And then the Dante Pettis one was a beautiful football, but Dante Pettis got all turned around. So the wide receivers were a problem. They went and got Chase Claypool. That's going to be less a problem. And now we might see those 200 yards passing plus another 100 yards on the ground from Fields. Fantasy God, he's been QB6 over the last 4 weeks in points per game. He's been QB2 overall in that time. Like, dude is performing, and he has been a good NFL quarterback. And I think that matters more.
And I think at least for the rest of this year, an ideal situation for him is throwing anywhere from 25 to 30 times a game and rushing anywhere from 8 to 15 times a game, depending on the game script and, how 100%. Dominant it is. And that's going to be QB1. I don't think there's any reason to beat around the bush. That'll be a QB1.
Yep. Rest of the year, he is a for sure QB1. The question I was going to have for you, so Claypool is probably not going to be 100% involved in this. It's kind of similar to McCaffrey, but he was traded early in the week. He'll have more of the playbook, I think. Who rest of season though? Darnell Mooney or Chase Claypool? Who is the better fantasy receiver? Isn't it tough,
dude?
I had
it's tough question. Because the way this offense has been running, it would be Claypool because I think he's going to get open quicker. He's a better jump ball, big body receiver. He can be used gadgetly to help, facilitate some of those receiving struggles that they've had. but Fields wants to launch that bitch.
He does. He does.
and without double coverage on Mooney, it's shaded
Exactly.
coverage and press coverage. He's going to get more open, and so I think it might be a bit of both. To where after this week, I think there'll be an integration of Claypool in the offense, and a little bit more quick hitters to him, and some RPO, him being the main option on the RPOs on the passing game and stuff like that, and screen game.
Mhm.
And then once he's in the offense, I think that's going to lead to bigger plays for Mooney.
Yep, I agree there. I said I think someone asked, I have a team with both of them. Who do I drop? And I said I think Claypool right now. Now he could end up
How would
being
you
a
drop?
PBR. Well, I think I'd hold for a week, but if you need a piece too, I don't know. I can't imagine they're a great piece on waivers. But in this game, I'm taking the Dolphins to win. I think we're going to hit the over, though, because the Bears' offense has been rolling, and the Dolphins can hit this by themselves.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins win in the over because I think the Bears keep this competitive, but the Dolphins just seem to eke out these wins, these
Yeah.
close ones, which is the mark of a good team.
Yeah.
So I think they squeeze it out, and I think they're a playoff team this year. We both had them on the outside looking in, like really close, but we also had the AFC West performing much better than they are. So I think the Dolphins can take advantage of that.
Yeah, for sure. Next one, Green Bay Packers, only 3-point favorites going to play Detroit, which is insane. Over-under in this game is 50. Christian Watson got
Just
concussed.
over already. Let's just get that part out.
Well, who knows with the Packers
I
offense.
want the over.
That's fair. Christian Watson got concussed. His mom was tweeting about it on Twitter, how disappointing it is to consistently see replays of her son getting just demolished. And fair enough. I don't know why television broadcasts do that, but they do. Aaron Jones went crazy last week, 20 carries, 143 yards, 4 catches, 14 yards. Romeo Dobbs, I almost said Josh Dobbs. That sucks.
So close.
Romeo Dobbs and Robert Tonyan were both the top targets, 4 for 62 and a touchdown, and a beautiful touchdown catch from Dobbs, and then 5 of 35. Other side of things, the Lions kept pace with the Dolphins, and they're actually out ahead, I believe 17-0, something like that, before the Dolphins started pouring it on. Jamal Williams, I saw a stat today on a points per snap basis. Jamal Williams is the RB1 on the year, so that's crazy. Also, might not be a sticky stat, but 10 carries, 53 yards, and 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift was pretty quiet, but I think he'll be more integrated into the offense this week, though I did see he did not practice, I believe, yesterday or today, maybe. So who knows?
There's been a lot of talk like Swift was used too much, according to Dan Campbell, and he got 10 touches. At that point, why did you play him?
Right. Yeah. I don't know why they
If
did
10
that.
touches was too much, why did you play him?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think there's a chance he probably sits this week, and then he's back next week getting 6 touches or so. It's weird. And I get what the point is. Like, he's even saying he's not like himself yet. And with what we saw last week of the 5 carries or the 5 catches, you could see the difference from the week 1, where it looked like he was, a bat out of hell touching the ball and the most explosive back in the league and stuff like that. And he looked kind of like a plotter, which is, 6 yards is the reason or the outcome of that. So I don't expect him to play. If he is playing, I don't think I'm playing him.
Yeah.
Which sucks because if he's healthy, this is a phenomenal matchup.
Yeah. I think we're getting close to Jameson Williams being on the field for them, and that I think what they want is Swift and Jameson on the field together and to see the offense as it will look with a new quarterback next year. So I think they'll be safe with him this week.
I need James to come back. I'm tired of every week hearing from the Lions. We think he might play this year. It's just it's just not what I want to hear.
I know. It's crazy. This week, Amon-Ra St. Brown, fantastic matchup. I think he's going to get just loaded with targets. I don't have a whole lot on. I mean, I think the Packers eke out a win. The line's only 3, but I feel like they're gonna win by 6. Like I feel like
Give
this is
me,
a close game.
give me the Lions, baby.
Lions.
Fucking full send
Okay.
the demise here, man.
I'm into it. I'm into it. I'll take the Packers and the under because I think that's how the Packers have to win, right? They
Yeah,
have to
I'll
win.
take the Lions in the over.
Fun. Next one, Panthers against the Bengals. Bengals are 8.5-point favorites. The over-under is 44. PJ Walker should have thrown a winning touchdown pass in the waning minutes, but DJ Moore took his helmet off, but he was off the field, and no one really knows what the rule is and if it was legal or not. Strange call. Can't believe they made the call when they did. But PJ Walker was pretty awful for most of the game, and then he had that, and then he ended up with over 300 yards because I believe that was like 65 air yards, 70 air yards. It was one of the most remarkable throws I think I've ever seen, and that's saying something. It reminded
And
me
a
of that
phenomenal catch.
yeah, it reminded me of that Aaron Rodgers throw, that game-winning throw a few years back, which is probably like 10 years back now for what it's worth. Deontay Foreman, workhorse back, 26 carries, 118 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Juba Hubbard was out of this game. DJ Moore is my start this week. I just want to throw that out there before we get anywhere. I sat him last week, but I think with PJ Walker starting, I think that this offense actually looks kind of good. I think, Baker Mayfield definitely sucked it up to the point that DJ Moore was frustrated and not happy. DJ Moore, I think that catch lit a fire under him, and then he made a stupid mistake, and I think this is going to be a game where he just goes crazy. And Chidobe Awuzie, I believe, is out for the year now, so the Bengals secondary isn't going to look very good. So,
yeah, and with the Foreman Chuba thing, Foreman was still coming out on a lot of third downs, almost all third downs, and he still got this workload. So, I don't think Chuba cuts in vastly into the rushing mark, and he just takes the third down role. So,
could be.
I think Foreman's still a good back the rest of the year.
Could be. The Bengals sucked on Monday night. Joe Burrow, 25 of 35, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. That was the first game without Jamar Chase, who's out for a few weeks, but no one really knows how long because he's apparently built different, and they think he'll recover quicker, so they haven't put him on the IR, which is just a crazy reason to not put a guy on the IR. Mixon, 8 for 27, but 7 catches for 32 yards, saving his fantasy day. T. Higgins, only 3 for 49. Tyler Boyd was relevant for a second, but, just not a great day for the Bengals offense altogether.
Yeah, they went into the fourth quarter with under 100 yards of offense.
Yeah.
And they got 2 touchdowns.
Against a Browns defense that had been pretty bad for the majority of the year.
And one of the worst against the run, and they completely shut down Mixon.
Yeah. For that, I'm taking the Panthers to cover. I'm taking the over in this game, actually.
Yeah. I'm fine with that, and I'll take the Bengals as well.
Okay. Sounds good. Next one, Minnesota Vikings, 3.5-point favorites against the Washington Commanders. The over-under is 43.5. Irv Smith is out for a long time, but TJ Hawkinson is not yet, I guess, since he also has his fair share of injury history. Vikings won what was a great game against Arizona. Cousins, 24 of 36, 232 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not very good. Did rush a touchdown in. But Dalvin Cook, 20 carries, 111 yards and a touchdown, 5 for 30 through the air. Madison got involved as well, 5 carries, 40 yards and a touchdown. Justin Jefferson, 6 catches, 98 yards. Adam Thielen, 6 catches, 67 yards. So just a lot of fantasy relevant performances last week. Other side of things, Taylor Heineke apparently is a god. Led a great comeback. 23 of 31, 279 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Added a touchdown on the ground. Terry McLaurin, 6 catches, 113 yards, and a badass game-winning catch where he said, "This is my city," because they were in Indy, and that's where he's from. He won like state championships there, so it was kind of a cool moment for him. Antonio Gibson sucked on the ground still, but it doesn't matter because he caught 7 balls for 58 yards and a touchdown, and he's still the best fantasy back that is in this Washington offense.
Yeah. Speaking of sucking on the ground, my lock sit of the week, Brian Robinson.
That was such a good setup.
I got you. And this is This is why me and Christian have such a pushback on people's overhyping of Brian Robinson, and we're pushing back on all the offseason stuff. And like, don't get your hopes up, even if he is a starter. Uh, I'll say to start the year, Gibson did not look great, and the first game and a half, 2 games when Robinson was back, he did look like the better back on the ground. But Gibson's got his juice back. He didn't look fantastic against on the ground this week, but it's 7 carries. It's hard. They're really scattered. It's very hard to get a rhythm like that. He's efficient through the air. Robinson is a plotter. He wasn't doing well. He's not breaking tackles. It's just not great. And this Vikings defense is middle of the pack right now, but they've had some stiff competition. I think they're actually one of the best defenses to pick up for the playoff push. I think that they have a phenomenal playoff, matchups, and they're a very good defense that's getting better. The secondary, while it is giving up some yards at different times through the air, they have an active secondary and a young secondary, and they're doing some things. And I think they're an above average defense. I think they're going to be able to stop the run pretty aggressively, and Heineke's going to have to win through the air. I think the Commanders win, the Vikings win, and I'll take the over.
I'm with you. That's I think the Vikings, coming out of their bye, going into that Cardinals game, getting a win, I think that's important. Also, the Vikings are easily going to win the NFC North. I think the second best challenger right now is actually the Bears, which is kind of crazy. So I don't think that's scary.
And I will say, it's one of those, like, I like Heineke. I like that he does this every time. He's an absolute fighter, and he doesn't screw up. He's an efficient quarterback. I fucking hate that he's the quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a good team. Like, Sam Howell should have been given the ropes. And I think Heineke has earned them, and I think he's earned the starting job in this replacement. I want that to be stated. But I don't fucking want to see him on the field.
Yeah,
I want to see the guy that could be the future quarterback of this team. You've seen Heineke, and you took Wentz.
Yep.
I think that says everything.
Exactly.
I think you have to see Howell.
Yeah.
And they're just not doing it. And it sucks because once Heineke got the ball, you knew he wasn't going to lose it for bad performance because he doesn't do that.
No, yeah, you're right. For sure. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Seattle Seahawks. I have a little bit of a victory lap on them, but I'm not going to get there yet. Maybe next week. They're playing the Cardinals. Cardinals are 1.5-point favorites. The over-under is 50 in this game. Seahawks just kind of like dominated the game last week in terms of they always had control of it over the Giants. Geno, 23 of 34, 212 and 2. One of his down games. Ken Walker, 18 for 51 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Lockett, 5 of 63 and 1. He had a pretty massive drop too, didn't he? Like a wide open, beautiful deep ball. Yeah. He should have been 6 for over 100, I believe, at that point.
Yeah, I think it would have been like 110, 120 and 2 touchdowns.
DK Metcalf, all the concern about him playing or not, should have played him for your fantasy roster. 6 for 55 and 1. Go ahead.
I was going to say these teams have played, and DK did not have a good game against Byron Murphy. I expect the same thing.
Maybe
plain and simple. So I think Lockett is the guy this week, but I think DK could very easily have 2 catches for 47 yards and a touchdown, though. So it's like, this week, do you sit him? Like,
right. I got a start sit question last week of like DK or Brandon Cooks, and this was last week though, and I said, well, DK, because I think even if he's like limited, he still gets in the end zone this week against the Giants. Like I just felt like that was going to happen.
Yeah,
and it did. On the other side of things, Kyler Murray, I don't think he's very good, man. That's my takeaway from Kyler. 31 of 44, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, but one was like a very crucial late game pick. 6 rushes for 36 yards, kind of uncharacteristic for him. Uh, DeAndre Hopkins still one of the best receivers in the NFL. I was super wrong about him this year too.
You talk
Uh,
about victory laps here.
yeah, we both have one for this game for what it's worth. But 12 catches, 159 yards and a touchdown. Rondale came alive. The 99% snaps turned into fantasy performances. Isn't that crazy how that happens? Being on the field is the most translatable thing to fantasy points, and Rondale's always there. 7 catches, 92 yards and a touchdown. Zach Ertz also 4 catches, 34 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, man, I'm taking the Seahawks in this game because I think that they are an actually good. I don't know, like I can't victory lap it because I didn't expect this to be the outcome. I didn't expect them to be this good. So
Yeah, so I mean, I will say I knew I was always going to be wrong because I gave them 1 win. Like
yeah,
I knew they were getting 3 wins, 3 or 4.
right.
But it was more trying to make the point like this isn't a good team
Yeah,
on paper. Geno Smith has been playing well above his pay grade.
and
This
well above what
line
anyone thought.
has been playing well above its pay grade. And to what it's for the last 3 weeks, this young defense has played very, very well. And
Yeah,
it's a Seahawks kind of staple that they drafted young freaks on defense that are not the best, but they're freak athletes, and they're playing well. They're playing really well for their age, especially Tariq Woolen. And we're still at the 5-3 mark, so neither one of us is technically more right than the other, unfortunately.
yeah. One more win though.
One more win, you're more right, which
Yeah,
is fine. But
I
then
want
you
them to
might
get all the
admit,
way there.
then
That's
you
what I
might
want.
finally admit that you said they were going to win 9 games.
No, I'm gonna go back. I'm pretty sure it was 8.
I can guarantee you said 9. We've done this like 4 episodes in a row.
I know.
I promise you put 9 and 8.
All right. Well, then maybe I did think that they were going to be this good. I just didn't know how at the time. I did not think it was
And
going to be with dominant
when you
quarterback play.
said that, the reason I pushed back so hard is because I didn't see either quarterback playing this well. I didn't see the line playing this well this early. I thought both tackles were good, but I thought a couple of years they'll be really good. That's what I'm going with there. And this
Charles
defense, I
Cross
didn't
is
think
elite, man.
yeah,
He's
I didn't think this defense could stop.
anyone. Yeah, that's fair. On paper, especially. I'm taking the Seahawks and I'm taking the over. There's going to be so many points that come from this game.
I'm gonna take the Cardinals in the over because fuck you. That is my answer. It might not be the best betting answer, but it's my answer.
They're the favorites, man. I think you're right to pick them. They're at home. It's kind of a pick 'em though, if you consider.
It's a bit of a pick 'em, yeah.
But okay, next one. Los Angeles Rams at the Buccaneers. Bucks are 3-point favorites. Over under is 42.5. Cooper Kupp's going to play this week. He did have an injury late in the game and kind of garbage time, and everyone was panicking, but seems like he'll play. The Rams kind of suck right now. The 49ers just laid it on them. Stafford, 187 yards and a touchdown. Kupp still got his. 79 of those 187 yards went to Cooper Kupp, and the touchdown also went to Cooper Kupp. Allen Robinson, 5 for 54. Other side of things, Tom Brady was fine, 26 of 44, 325 and a touchdown. Leonard Fournette was not fine, really. 9 carries, 24 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches for 34. Fantasy fine, but real life not fine. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, 6 catches on 11 targets. Evans had 123 yards. Godwin had 75. We have a thing here. I need more info, Randy.
It's just because we keep picking up every Rams running back at this point. Kyren Williams was last week and this week, and then it's whatever their other rookie is that got some work last week.
Ronnie Rivers.
Same. Yeah. Henderson, people are starting. Don't fucking start any of them.
Yeah.
That's my advice. This is yet again on a good matchup for them on the ground. The only way the Rams are going to win this is through the air because the Tampa secondary is banged up still, which we'll see who comes back. But I'm assuming a lot are out again. And obviously they lost Shaq Barrett for the year, so the pass rush won't be as good either. But I'm just not starting Rams running back. Now we get reports today that they refused to trade Kia because they want to bring him back, which is complete bullshit, just like all the news before then. So I don't know who's getting the ball. At this point, it seems like 5 running backs are going to touch the ball 2 times each and get a grand total of 25 yards between the 5. So why, at this point, I really don't even want to roster any of them.
No, I don't either.
It's going to be a complete timeshare regardless at this point. And this line is terrible. They cannot run block to save their life. They're not even doing great pass blocking right now. So I just don't. I don't want anything. I literally just give me Kupp and give me Higbee. And I don't want Allen Robinson.
No.
I don't care that he had 10 points.
No. Yeah, you're right. I'm taking the Bucks in this game. I'm taking the over barely.
I'm taking the Bucks in the under, actually.
Okay. Yeah, it's a tight line, I think.
Yeah, it is.
These people in Vegas know what they're doing sometimes. All right, Sunday Night Football, Titans against the Chiefs. I was shocked to find out that the Titans are like winning football games because I feel like that's a team I just have not watched a whole lot of this year. Like I look at their stats, but good football team leading the AFC South pretty comfortably now. Chiefs are 12.5 point favorites in this one though, and the over/under is 46.5, and this is great. Malik Willis played last week. He was not good at all. So 6 of 10 for 55 yards and an interception, 5 of 12 on the ground, and it didn't matter because Derrick Henry ran for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns again against the Texans. It is insane what that man does to an entire franchise.
Yeah,
I don't even understand it. How is it even possible?
I had people questioning me because I gave them the statistic that he's averaging like 230 yards in the last like 6 games against the Texans. People are like, that's clearly wrong. Like, no, sir.
Look it up.
Why the fuck would I tell you a wrong stat?
Yeah,
I don't know who does that, but it's not me. And I was sitting there guaranteeing that he had over 180 yards. And people were looking at me crazy. He exceeded that. Yeah, and he's going to have to do that again. It does seem like Tannehill's probably played. I want that stated.
Right. He'll be limited, I think. I mean, he was in a walking boot less than a week ago, so
yeah. For what it's also worth, Hilliard came in, ran 8 times for 83 yards, so they just dominated running the ball. They're gonna have to do that again, and they're gonna have to hold the ball for at least 2/3 of the game.
Yeah,
win.
For sure.
I don't think they win, but that's the only way.
Yeah. Chiefs are coming off a bye, and my lock sit this week is all wide receivers not named Juju. Don't play Mecole Hardman. Don't play Kadarius Toney. Don't play Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Don't play Sky Moore, who is playing Sky Moore. No one, but you get the point. I just want to see it for a week. I'd even be skeptical about starting Juju in this game, honestly, but I think he's going to be fine. I'm curious to see. Coming off the bye week is when your rookie receivers also get more run. So I'm curious to see if we're looking at maybe Sky Moore's snaps increasing along with Toney's introduction into the offense. Maybe MVS and Meek will take a step back and give up some snaps this week. So I'm out.
Yeah. So I think the Chiefs are pretty much locked in scoring 4 touchdowns this week.
For sure.
I think that's almost the floor. And with those 4 touchdowns, I think there's probably 60% chance or so that CEH scores a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
But last week he was out-snapped and out-touched by Pacheco 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I want to see what it is this week. I truly, he's not running better than Clyde, in my opinion.
No, he's not that good.
It's just he's been given a little bit more power scheme. And just they're calling different plays for when Clyde's on the field and when every other running back's on the field. So we'll see how it goes, but I think Clyde gets a touchdown. I don't think he does much else besides that and catching balls. So I think this is purely – and this is a good rushing defense for the Titans, who was trying to get healthier, and I think they will be this week. I think Kelsey scores 30 points in fantasy.
For sure. For sure. For sure.
That's yeah.
I'm taking the Chiefs to cover that point total, and I'm taking the over because I think they're going to score 40 themselves.
Yeah,
or
I think
30
so
themselves.
too. I mean, like I said, there is one way the Titans can win, and at that point, it would probably be the under. And the line's going to be a lot closer, obviously, because the Titans would win.
Yeah.
I don't think that's possible, but,
No.
King Henry has proved us wrong before. So,
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And this game always seems to be close, I feel like,
Yeah.
at least for the majority of it. Last game, Baltimore Ravens, 2.5-point favorites against the New Orleans Saints. This is on Monday Night Football. The over-under is 48. Mark Ingram, grade 2 MCL sprain. He's out 3 to 4 weeks. Rashad Bateman, foot injury. He's out for it. I saw a report 4 to 6 weeks, actually.
yeah.
It just keeps getting worse.
What we got from the Ravens is likely weeks.
Yeah.
Which could mean 2. But it could mean 8. Like, we really don't know. So it's tough. I think it's probably the same timetable as Hollywood Brown, ironically. And that was anywhere from like 3 to 6 weeks. And they put him on IR expecting 4 at least. So I think that's what we're more looking at.
Yeah.
And it's just tough.
Lamar, 27 of 38, 238 yards and 2 touchdowns, 43 yards on the ground. They beat the Bucs last week. Gus Edwards, top back, again, 11 of 65, but he was hurt. Sounds like he'll be okay. But I'm thinking it's going to be a Drake show type of game.
So there's mixed reports with him and Andrews on if they're going to play on Monday night.
Yeah.
The thing you have to remember, the Ravens have a bye next week.
Yeah. And
This
teams
is
have
a
been
winnable
cautious
game.
with this.
I don't think Gus Edwards plays. I think there's a good chance Andrews does.
But does he play and then get knocked out like he did last week?
Yeah. So the last week, they made a big thing that both Andrews' injury was not a big deal, which it wasn't because they got injured separately. And then that Bateman's was not a big deal after the game. Since then, we've heard a lot of different things, but they keep saying it's not a big deal for Andrews. I can't trust a goddamn word this staff says at this point. With injuries, it's tough. I mean, I think if you have Andrews, I think if you have the flex spot this week or the bench spot to pick up Likely, that'd be great because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think you're playing Edwards this week. And I don't think you're playing Drake simply because there's a good chance you've used the running back spots already and the flex spots, and you're deciding between, would you play Antonio Gibson or Kenyon Drake?
Gibson.
Antonio Gibson on Sunday.
Gibson.
That's not a top level player. Like Rondo Moore, you're playing Rondo.
Yep.
It's not even that level. I think you're playing Fournette over Drake.
I think you'd consider Rachaad White in the same tier as Kenyon Drake. So.
And that's not disregarding that Drake could have over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's just if we don't know he's getting all the work, and we don't know even what this whole team looks like going against the Saints, and we know what the heavy running attack of the Raiders just did against these guys.
Yeah.
I just don't like it.
Yeah, that's fully fair. I think if you're looking for tight end help after, say, there's a late scratch, you don't know what to do with the tight end position, I think picking up Likely is fine because I do think he will be involved now with Bateman out as well. I think that they will get Isaiah Likely involved because he went 6 for 77 last week. So,
in a touchdown.
In a touchdown. The other side of things, Andy Dalton played really well. I kind of trashed him last week, and then you were like, oh, he's played well. And I said, yeah, he played all right last week. And then he played well again. 22 of 30, 229 yards, 2 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara, 18 of 62, a touchdown, 9 catches, 96 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He looks like the elite fantasy performer that we know he is, which is good. He just keeps pouring it on. Olave 5 for 52. I think he'll have a bigger game in this one. I don't, I think the Ravens win this one kind of easily. The Saints have been playing really well, but I think the Ravens kind of step up their game on Monday Night Football.
I'm actually going to take the Saints
Wow.
simply because of injuries.
That's fair. Yeah, I get it. I mean, it's the right process. I'm taking the under in this game, though.
Oh, I'm taking the over.
All right. So we're completely opposite on a few games.
Yeah,
We
fuck
should have
you.
kept track of this throughout the year. It's way too late for that, though. We're
Who's got
literally
the
halfway
time?
through the year. Yeah, facts. We could literally type it in the document as we go through it, but you're right. No one's got the time.
Who has it?
All right, that will do it for this episode of The Cut. A little bit longer, obviously, with the trade deadline. Like we said, we'll check in on our fantasy teams next week and then dive into the Week 10 preview. We will be back next Wednesday. But as always, if you guys have any questions, start sits, trade advice, we are here at C Williams NFL on Twitter, at R Hall NFL on Twitter as well. Randy, do you have anything to add before we get out of here?
No.
Sick. All right. Good luck in your fantasy matchups this week. We hope you all win everything, every league that you're in. Get a lot of dubs, and I'm hoping I do too, so I can report better numbers on my fantasy performances. All right. For Randy Hall, I'm Christian Williams. We'll talk to you guys next week. Later.